The Austrian Grand Prix weekend opened with something no one expected but maybe everyone needed. Not a record-breaking lap time, not a dramatic crash, not even a surprise podium finish. What caught the world off guard this time was paperwork. FIA, the governing body of Formula One, dropped 2 documents that have silently shaped the sport for years. Documents that dictate how drivers race, how stewards judge, and ultimately who wins and who loses. These weren't tweaks or minor clarifications. They were full-blown revelations. For the first time ever, the public got its hands on the internal rulebook that outlines how racing is judged and how penalties are assigned. What looked like a mundane regulatory release might end up being one of the most important moments of the 2025 season. Let's take a step back. For years, fans have screamed into the void, questioning why one driver gets punished and another doesn't for the same incident, why some teams get slapped on the wrist while others are crushed with fines or grid drops. Drivers have called it's inconsistent. Journalists have called it opaque. Even team principals have thrown their hands up, unsure whether they're racing under rules or interpretations. The FIA said it heard the noise. Now they've answered it with transparency. But transparency only works if it's real, and if it doesn't come with strings attached. The first document they released is about how to race. Literally, it's a set of driving guidelines agreements between the FIA and the drivers defining what's clean and what's not. How far alongside do you have to be to claim a corner? When are you allowed to push someone wide? When does a bold overtake cross the line into reckless? These questions have never had clear answers. Now they do, at least on paper. But the second document, that's where things get serious. It's essentially a catalog, a list of offenses, each with recommended penalties. Think of it like a fast food menu, but instead of fries and burgers, you've got unsafe releases, collisions, track limits, and radio outbursts. The price, grid drops, license points, race bans. For the first time, we can see exactly what kind of penalty is recommended for each act on track, and that changes everything, because now we can judge the judges. We can go back, look at controversial decisions and say, did they follow their own rules? And already, the answer seems uncomfortable. Take the incident between Max Verstappen and George Russell in Spain. It pushed Verstappen within 1 penalty point of a race ban, but according to these new guidelines, had the stewards judged it as deliberate, Max would have been banned on the spot. For penalty points, 30-second time penalty, game over. Instead, he got 3 points. Close, but not catastrophic. That one-word difference, deliberate, isn't just semantics. It's the difference between staying in the title fight or watching it from home. So now we have to ask, are these guidelines a tool for fairness or just another layer of control? Because if the stewards knew the rule and still chose the lighter interpretation, was it about judgment or protection? And that question right there is why this isn't just about documents. It's about power. When the FIA's penalty menu dropped, it didn't just explain the rules, it started rewriting the past, like peeling wallpaper. The fresh clarity revealed what had been hiding underneath. Countless decisions that now look wildly inconsistent. Let's talk about Lando Norris. At the Canadian Grand Prix, Norris made contact with his teammate Oscar Piastri and was given a 5-second time penalty. Now, typically, at least according to what we all thought we understood if a driver can't serve their penalty in the race because they DNF or don't get classified, that penalty converts into a grid drop for the next race. That's how the sport has operated for years. But this time Norris walked away clean. Why? Because buried deep in this new document is a tiny clause that changes everything. 5-second penalties don't carry over unless there are multiple infractions. A single penalty. That's it. It dies with a checkered flag. So, if Norris had received 2 5-second penalties, then it would have triggered a grid drop, one alone. It's nothing more than a slap on the wrist. Think about the implications. How many past penalties might have been enforced or dropped under this logic? How many team strategies, qualifying risks, or race outcomes might have shifted? These aren't just technicalities, they're fundamental to how teams approach the sport, and we're only now learning them. Then there's the matter of moving under braking, a dangerous, often controversial tactic. The document defines 2 types: basic movement, which might warrant a warning, and dangerous movement, which earns an automatic sporting penalty. Again, it all comes down to interpretation. What one steward sees as defensive driving, another may see as endangering a competitor. That's a huge swing in judgment. And now we know it's not that the rules weren't there before. It's that we never knew how much latitude the stewards actually had, and it goes even deeper. The FIA has now clarified guidelines for behavior off the track too: swearing, abusing officials, public conduct in interviews and podium ceremonies. There's now a formal line between controlled environments like media rooms where behavior must be impeccable and non-controlled environments like radio transmissions or debrief. Drivers can vent frustrations over team radio, but not in front of a mic. And even then, there's a first offense leniency clause. In short, if you lose your cool once, we'll let it slide. Do it again. Expect punishment. It's all neat. It's all clean. It's all very legal. But here's the kicker. None of this would be so controversial if the FIA had released it earlier. Why now? Why in the middle of the season? Why just as calls for fairness have grown louder? Why in an election year? This isn't just a rulebook. It's a shield. It's a weapon. And, in the hands of the wrong people, it's a tool to shape the narrative. Now that the guidelines are public, the illusion of fairness in Formula One is being replaced by something far more unsettling: controlled unpredictability. Because what these documents show isn't just how the FIA applies justice, it shows how close to the edge drivers truly live. Max Verstappen is the perfect case study. He's one penalty point away from an automatic race ban. That's not new. What's new is understanding just how easily that final point could happen. You might think it would take a reckless lunge or an avoidable crash, but according to the penalty menu, not necessarily. Minor infractions like slightly leaving the track and rejoining unsafely during qualifying or accidentally crossing a white line at pit entry can earn you that single point. It doesn't have to be dramatic, it just has to be documented. That's a terrifying thought. One of the greatest drivers in the sport today could be banned from a Grand Prix, not for crashing out his rivals, but for something as mundane as missing a bollard in pit lane. Under this system, the championship could swing because of a mistake no fan would even notice on TV. And yet, that's the reality now. Not only do the stewards have a menu of penalties, they have a minefield of technicalities to enforce them. With the intent behind this might have been noble: transparency, consistency, accountability. But what we're seeing is a double-edged sword. Because now, every minor offense has a documented value. Every slip-up is catalogued, every judgment can be defended with a paragraph of text. That doesn't make it fair, it just makes it harder to challenge. It also raises one disturbing question: are all drivers held to the same standard? Would a mid-grid driver, one without titles or massive fan bases, be judged with the same level of benefit of the doubt as a superstar like Verstappen or Hamilton? Historically, the answer hasn't been yes, and now with this document out, fans can scrutinize every decision like never before. That's both a blessing and a threat. Let's not forget the political undercurrent. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has centered his re-election bid around the theme of transparency. And then suddenly these long-hidden documents are released. Drivers and fans have been asking for them for years. Why now? Why this race weekend? Why when trust in the stewards is at an all-time low? Carlos Sainz was asked that very question. He refused to answer. George Russell, who has been vocal about needing consistency, cautiously welcomed the release but also said, "We'll have to see." That phrase alone reveals everything. The drivers want to believe this is the beginning of change, but they've been burned before. So now, they wait, watching, judging Dutch just like we are. The FIA wants you to believe this is a step toward clarity, but in many ways, it's just a better lit maze. The walls are still there, the stewards still hold all the keys, and the path out still full of traps. When governing bodies claim they're being transparent, they often mean they're willing to show you what they want you to see. That's the uneasy reality that F1 fans are facing now. The FIA's publication of these internal guidelines has given us more visibility into race officiating than ever before, but transparency alone doesn't guarantee trust. In fact, if anything, it's raised new concerns that could shape the integrity of the sport moving forward. Take the team conduct rules. One of the most overlooked but significant revelations in the new guidelines is that even team members can trigger race penalties. If a team member is caught abusing an official verbally or otherwise, that could result in a minimum 3-place grid drop for both team cars. Not a fine, not a slap on the wrist. A penalty that directly affects race performance. This might sound harsh, but it's designed to reinforce professionalism across the paddock. Still, it opens up a scary possibility. What if a single moment of emotion from someone in the garage sabotages a driver's weekend? One emotional outburst could cost a front row start. It's justice, sure, but it's also a ticking time bomb. There's a growing feeling in the paddock that this isn't just about ensuring fair play, it's about controlling the narrative. The more structured the rules become, the more easily they can be selectively enforced. The FIA can now justify almost any decision with a clause from the rulebook. That's not transparency. That's insulation. And perhaps most revealing of all is the timing. The release of this material isn't random. It comes at a moment when public trust in officiating has eroded. It comes during a contentious political year within the FIA, and it comes with suspicious precision. Just as top drivers and team personnel begin questioning decisions that could alter the championship, George Russell summed it up best: "We'll have to see. Will this be the moment when Formula One becomes more fair, more consistent, more just? Or is this a well-timed illusion designed to buy silence and stall criticism?" The difference between racing and manipulation is a matter of trust. And trust is fragile. With these new guidelines, the FIA has taken a bold step, but it's a step onto a very thin wire. One misstep, one biased decision, and this whole campaign for transparency could collapse into another era of confusion and controversy. This is no longer just about racing lines and time penalties. It's about the soul of the sport. And now that we, the fans, can see the rules, We have a responsibility to hold those in power accountable for how they use them. If this video opened your eyes to the politics behind the penalties, don't scroll past. Subscribe, comment below. Let us know what you think. Is this real transparency or just a clever move during an election year? Because Formula One doesn't just need fast cars, it needs honest leadership. And now, more than ever, the world is watching.